Hey y'all, today's episode is sponsored by DrATV.com, your source for all your CDIs and coils for the electronics for these old bikes. Also by the letter Q and the number 4. So let's get started. Thanks. All right, welcome back. Well, no start, CDI problems. Where do you begin? What do? You go out to the bike, maybe you're riding it that morning, you rode it all morning, everything's great, you park it, you go inside, grab a sandwich, come back, and it doesn't start. Well, spark is generally pretty easy to track down. There's about 5 major components you need to look at. We're going to go through the basics here, but we're going to focus on figuring out if you have a bad CDI. A lot of guys, that's their default thing. If a bike don't start, you need a CDI. It's a lot more than just a CDI. It could be a lot simpler than a CDI. CDI box, if you're new to three-wheelers, I like to think of it as kind of the brain. The CDI box takes in signals from different components of the bike. It processes them, and then it tells other components what to do. So let me explain. We got old Betsy back out. This is a 1983 Big Red. It's a very common setup. There's 2 types of CDIs we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the round plug and the square plug. So first things what you want to do is you're going to want to take the tank off and the seat. As you see here, old Betsy's pretty dirty, but this is what most of your bikes are going to look like. They've been sitting up, you know, you've been riding them, someone's been riding them. If you look right here, mounted to the frame, is a CDI box. This little square box right here, my finger's on. I'll see it better from that side. This is your CDI box, and this represents the square style CDI box. Now, like I told you, this is the brain. And what it does is it takes current or electricity from your stator, which is actually housed right here behind your pull rope. You follow the black wire with the red tracer, which is going to be this wire right here. It's going to come out of the stator. It's going to come up here. It's going to follow it all the way up. It's going to go into your CDI. This is your rotor and your pickup. You're going to have a blue wire and a green wire. Now this is also called your pulse generator. This is what sets the timing of your engine. This is how the coil knows when to fire. Okay. So you got your blue wire and your green wire. Your green wire is going to be ground. The blue wire is going to come out. It's going to come through these 2 little plugs here. And it's going to go into your CDI. All right. Now, coming out of the CDI, you're going to find the black wire with the yellow tracer. It's right here. See that? It's going to come over and it's going to go and it's going to power the coil. If you look real close right here, this plug is the black wire with the yellow tracer. See that? Alright, so that sends power to the coil. Then the coil takes that power and it steps it up to higher voltage, and then it sends it out this black wire. The black wire comes down, goes all the way around, and terminates into your spark plug. Okay? And that's really it. Now, there is another wire that we didn't talk about, and that's your kill switch. We're going to show you how to test for each one of these things so you'll know what part you need to buy. And it could be something as simple as your kill switch has gone bad. Could be your ground is off, which is very common. There's a bolt right here. See this little green wire right there? You can see that hopefully. See that little green wire? I've had 2 bikes come in and that little wire is broken off. I put that wire on it and the bike fired up. So, what you want to do, and this is something you just got to learn with time. And the earlier you learn it, the better off you're going to be. There's 2 kinds of mechanics in the world. There's parts changers and there's actual mechanics. And the difference is a mechanic will diagnose the problem. He won't guess. He's just not going to throw parts at a problem. That's the big difference between a real mechanic and a parts changer. So a CDI from Honda nowadays is about $200. I think $198 is the last one I priced out. That's an OE original. Schumacher, I believe, was the company that made them. CDI from Honda. Now, when we get done today, I'm going to show you a trick that's going to allow you to run the inexpensive aftermarket CDIs, and I'm even going to tell you where to go and get them, and it's going to save you about $170. So stay tuned to the end of the video. We're going to go through all the steps in diagnosing a bad CDI, and then when we're done, I'll show you how to convert this to your small square CDI plug. And if you have the round plug, which a lot of like the 84s. So let's go through the steps, and then by the end of the video, I'll show you how to convert that over. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you need to know your components, where they are, what they do, and how they send signals and how they communicate to one another. Remember, the CDI is just kind of the brain of the operation. This is where your CDI. Start with the stator. Stator creates the electricity or the current. It comes out the black wire with a red tracer. It comes up the harness and comes all the way in directly to the CDI. If you look really close, there's a black wire with a red tracer right there, okay? So that's where your current, your power source begins, and it begins right there at the flywheel with the stator. How does the engine know when to disperse that spark? From your pulse generator right here. Every time this comes around, there's a magnet on this side. If you look really close, there's a little line there by my finger. There's not one on this side. Every time that line comes around and passes this pickup, it sends a signal to the CDI box. That signal comes out on the blue wire. The green wire is a ground. That blue wire comes and it says, okay, fire. CDI box takes that signal and then relays it from going out of the CDI box, and it sends it over to the coil, which is located right here. That's going to be the black wire with the yellow tracer. That takes the current and it steps up the voltage, and it sends it out the larger black wire around to your spark plug, and that's what makes the spark plug spark. And that's really all there is to it. Okay, keep it simple and you can figure this stuff out. So what I like to do is when I'm chasing spark, of course I just go straight to the spark plug, pull it out, we've got good spark. So this CDI is good. This electrical system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The battery's low, and that's why it's turning over a little slow like it is. But when you're chasing out an electrical problem, pull that spark plug, set it there on the frame. If you don't see spark there, then the next thing I do is I want to pin out, it's what they call it, the CDI. Now, this is a square style CDI. Every one of those connections, every one of those components we just spoke of, all terminate right here. So this is a great place to go when you're chasing a problem. You're going to want an ohm meter, and this is your basic ohm meter. You're going to want one of these. It's far better than a test light. A test light you can do a lot with, but an ohm meter is really what you want to do. Invest in one. Investing in a tool like this is really investing in yourself. This one I think was $29 at the local hardware store. I've had it 5 or 6 years. I've gotten my money's worth out of it. So what you want to do is everything that I'm going to show you, you're going to want to pin to ground. All right, so pause the video for a second and go get you a pencil and write this information down. First off, you need to go, and I tell everybody, go over to the oscarmayer.net. That's OSCARMAYER.net website. Find the manual, the service manual, not the owner's manual. The service manuals how to fix things. The owner's manual is how to ride it. I think you figured out how to ride it by now. So get the service manual and download it, put it on your phone. You can take it out to your shop or your garage that way. Every bike is listed there. It's a good idea if you're going to be messing with three-wheelers. Go ahead and get a couple of other ones. They're free. Grab them, put them on your computer, and just sit on them. While you're there, you're going to find, I've printed it off here. I have another one that's laminated. That makes it official and permanent. But this one I just printed off for tonight, and this is your basic wire color code. You will find it on that same website that I just told you. Go down to forms and charts, and you'll find this. And this right here is exactly the same color key code for all of the three-wheelers. So whatever three-wheeler you have, if you got a 185S or if you got a 250 ES or whatever it is, and you're looking, you don't know what the white and brown wire is, well, you follow it over, you know that that's the running lights. It's the turn signal switch. So just as an example, it's good to have something like this. This file is also downloadable. You can put it on your phone and you can reference it that way. It's just good to know what these wires are, especially after they get some age on them. So going back to what we were talking about, I like to run a little jumper. You can take a jumper like this and run it straight to the battery. This is just a cheap little piece, alligator clips, what I always call them. But they work really well. You can get them in different colors. This came as a set, a red and a black. I'm going up straight to the battery. I don't want to take any chances of having a false ground. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clip it to my ground of my meter. And so this way I'm hands free on one side. One hand is free. I'm just gonna hook that to my ground and I'm gonna set it to the side. So now I know I've got a good ground. I can double check that by going to the positive of the battery and verifying that I have current and voltage. And I do. All right, so we're gonna go back over to ohms. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a range of the value of what these components should be. So when you test out a stator, you're hoping, which is your red and black wire, okay? And what we're looking for, and this is how you do it, is you're gonna take your meter and you're gonna stick it in the pin to the red and black wire. And as you see here, I'm getting a reading of 197, 198, 199. I'm not pushing it in there so far as to deform the pin, but I'm pushing it in there just far enough to get a reading. And I can tell you that a good stator, which is the red and black wire, so this one's a little low, but it's working just fine. If you look in the manual, if you download that manual, like I told you, it will give you the exact reading of what that window should be. So this one is a little low, but it's still working. So that's good. So now we've checked our stator. So if this bike wasn't starting, if we didn't have any spark, the first thing I would have done is I would have checked that stator, and now I know the stator's not the problem. This is how mechanics is supposed to be. So the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to check the black and white wire. That's going to be your on and off ground. And so how that works is that's either an open or closed circuit from ground that actually grounds out the coil. And so what we're going to want to do is that's going to be this upper one here on the top. And it should be open right now. Okay, there we go. All right, so when the machine is off, I'm getting 17 ohms resistance when the machine is off. When the machine is on, so what I'm doing, I'm only got one hand here. So what I'm doing is I'm turning the on and off switch off while it's grounded. So while I have that pin in that connector, I'm flipping the on off switch to on, off, and back on, okay? That tells me that the switch is good because it's a closed circuit when it's on, okay? And it's an open circuit when it's off, okay? So that means it's not sending any ground to the coil. So that means the machine should be running. So now we've eliminated 2 of our 5 components. Our stator's good and our switch is good. All right, so the next thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna check the dark green wire. That's gonna be the ground. It's gonna be this one right here. Now what we're doing here, this is just ground to battery ground. Either you're getting a good ground between the battery and the chassis of the bike. That's what you want. Okay. So the next one you're going to want to check is you're going to want to check your coil. It's going to be the black wire with the yellow stripe. And as you see, it's here on the back of the pin. I'm just going to go and I'm going to insert that. Now your coil, they do tend to go bad from time to time. I've replaced as many coils as I have CDIs. Your last plug, your last wire is your blue to yellow, and that's actually your pulse generator. It's going to be right here. So in this case, it's blue with the yellow stripe, so it's this one here. It's going to be the bottom left corner. Okay, and we're going to test it. Again, we're testing everything to ground. About 30 ohms, so this one is actually metering quite low. You're looking for about 30, it's coming up, there's 19, give or take. So that's a little weak, I'll tell you. But it's not enough to keep it from starting, keep it from running, okay? You get that down around 5 or 10 ohms is when you really start looking for trouble. Now that's it. That's all there really is to it. If you did have a bad component, if you had a bad coil or a bad pickup or a bad stator, you would have just found it. You would have found what your problem was in that step. It didn't take 5 minutes. So that being said, if all of those items checked out and you still didn't have any spark at the spark plug, again, make sure it's a good plug, make sure it's touching ground, then your culprit's going to be the CDI box. Now this is a replacement CDI. It's a direct replacement from my good friends over at D.I.D.com. Now let's see what kind of spark we have now. we've got good spark. That is a direct replacement for your square pole CDIs. Hey guys, this episode is sponsored by a new vendor that I have that has been nice enough to send me some products, and we're going to showcase them a little bit. It's DRATV.com. They are my go-to source for CDIs, plugs, and accessories like that. So y'all be sure to go and check out the site. They've got a lot of things, a lot of discontinued parts for Honda three-wheelers. Y'all check this out. Now DRATV has figured out if you've got a round plug CDI, this is a new CDI that they are carrying, you're going to have two options. These 84 CDIs we talked about are pretty tricky and they're kind of hard to find, and if you want to buy one from the factory, they're like 200 bucks. But DRATV.com has got this CDI right here. They just started carrying it. It's new to them. It's a direct replacement, right, just like it says here on the side, for your 200 ES 1984. So if you've got an 84 Big Red, that's a shaft drive, reverse, high and low, forward, this is the CDI for you. This is a round plug. Now I'm going to show you a workaround. You see right here, that's 6 pins. See how there's 6 on that one? All right, now you square pin guys, you're going to look real close. There's only 5 pins on that one, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to tell you what the difference is. The 6th pin on this round one is your gray wire, and that's your reverse not be able to start lockout. You can run this pole right here on a round plug bike as long as you're willing to not have the safety feature of the gray wire hooked up, which will allow you to start the bike in reverse. You're on your own if you do that. I take no responsibility, and neither does anybody else. You're a big boy, or girl for that matter. So if you have a round pole CDI but want to convert it, the guys over at Dr. ATV have figured out which pole you need an adapter plug, just like this. And what you do is you take your wiring harness off the bike, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. For your round plug bikes, you're going to unplug the bike side, which in this case is going to be the male side. Pull the 6 wires out of the back one at a time. Use a paper clip, I'll show you how. Insert them into this connector, and I'm going to show you the correct orientation of it. And that will allow you to use the inexpensive $20 square CDIs. So that's your pro tip today here. You can buy this replacement round plug, which Dr. ATV are the only people I know that offer it. But if you don't want to go keep the round plug, if you want to convert to the square plug, they have an adapter that allows you to rewire the harness on the bike to fit a square plug CDI. And it's just that simple. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a paper clip, you're going to open it up like this so you have a little handle to work on. I'm going to take it over and I'm going to hit this end of it with a hammer, and I'm going to flatten it out. Now just a few raps with a hammer is really all you need. You just want to flatten it out. It really doesn't matter what orientation it is. Now here's how we're going to use this. What we're wanting to do is we're going to disconnect the wiring side, the bike side if you will, of the actual harness. And the reason we're doing this, so let me stress this out. If you have a round plug CDI and you want to convert to the inexpensive square modern aftermarket CDIs, you can pick those up for about 20 bucks. So here's how you do it. I go ahead and I disassemble the entire harness. You just want to slide this in, and there's a little, this one's really dirty. And take each wire one at a time, and what I'm doing is when I push this in, there's a little finger in there. You have the actual spade on one side, and then when you put your plug in, it comes in and touches it. But coming off the back, there's a little latch, and it comes up and it keeps this prong. It's like a barb on a fishing hook. If anybody, you know what I'm talking about. And so what you want to do is when you insert your paper clip, you want to push it in, and you're pushing that barb down. And then while the paper clip's in there holding the barb down, you should be able to slide the wire out. Now this one's caked up with a lot of junk, so it might take me a little while to do this. But you'll feel it when you stick it in there. There it is, just like that. Now look, if you look close, there's a little barb right on the back of that pickup, of that prong. If you can see it, let me get a focus there. All right, right there, that's the little barb right there, right on the top. See that little lip? All right, when I put the paper clip in, that's what I pushed down. The paper clip went inside. Now you see why the paper clip needs to be flat. When I pushed the paper clip in, it pushed the barb down. I was able to pull the wire out of the back of the plug. Basically what we're doing, and the reason I do it this way, now there are some guys that will cut these wires. And to keep me from shortening this harness anymore, because this harness can get so short that you can't use it, is I go ahead and do all of them because they're color coded. It's not like one of those jobs where you're gonna not know what the wire is. It's got its color on it. That's why I also recommended that you go and download the color chart. Just like that. It's really nothing to it. Once you've done a couple, you'll get a feel for it. You're just sliding this paper clip in across the top of the barb. And that allows you to pull the wire out the back. I'm showing you this in real time. It's not that hard to do. It'd be nice if it wasn't 90 degrees out here in the shop, I gotta tell you. Always one. All right, so now basically all we've done, now let's say we didn't like what we did. We wanted to go back to original. You hold on to your little plug. You can put the wires right back in where they go, and I'll show you where they go. And this is where that pencil comes into. I told you to get earlier. So here's a little cheat sheet that I put together for all of us. You can take a look at that. Pause your phone and write that down, or take a screenshot of it so you can remember it. That's the pin layout. This is the top clip of the new pin, so you know the orientation of it. It's sitting just like this, okay? All right. Now I'm going to set that to the side and finish this up so you can see it. So the first thing what we're going to want to do is, we know all of our connections are going to come from the back side because it's only going to interact with the plug one way. So we already know that. So that being said, this is how we're looking at our picture. Just like that. So we're going to start in the upper right hand corner. This is going to be our black and yellow, which is going to be our coil wire. It's here. We're just going to slide it in. Now this is why I like doing it this way, because I can just reuse the same connections, and it locks right into place. If I make a mistake, I take it apart the same way. I put my paper clip in here, I pull that wire out, and I change it. It's not that hard. When you start cutting and splicing, you start opening yourself up for possible mistakes. And so to try to not make any more mistakes than necessary, try not to cut and splice your harnesses. Okay, it's just generally not worth it. You will end up with a connection that's weak. Maybe that gets condensation in it real easy, and then you have intermittent spark. And there's one of the hardest things to track down is a bike that runs okay for now and then doesn't run later. When you push these in, you'll feel the little detent kind of click a little bit. You'll feel it more than hear it, and then just give a nice little pull back on the wire. And as long as it stays put, you know you've put it in correctly. Now they do all face the same direction. All the pins go in the same orientation. Okay, and then the last one is our green wire, which is our ground. And that's all there is to it. Now what we've just done, if this was a round plug CDI, we would have just converted it to square plug. Okay, that's why we went through this step. I do not have a round plug bike in the shop tonight, so I wanted to show you how to do this. So now we take our new, modern, inexpensive CDI, we put it onto our new square plug, like so. It'll go back and fit in the factory mount. You can make one with a zip tie. And if I've done my job properly, we should have spark. And we do. And that's really all there is to it. It's just that simple. Now, if you had that round plug on that 84 that we talked about, that gray wire coming up, I personally just take that wire and cut it short, and then that way it doesn't have to go in there, and it's not an issue. For 20 bucks, $19.95, I think $19.99 is what they charge for these. You can put an extra one in your trunk of your ATC, and next time you're out on the trail, somebody may need one or you may need one. And if you go as far as to keep an extra clip in your CDI, then a pocket knife and a little ingenuity, and you can be back on the trail. And that's really all there is to it to changing a CDI. There's not that hard. But be sure and do your diagnosis first. Don't just run out and buy a CDI thinking that that's the cure-all. I got to tell you that it's about a 50-50 shot between either it's going to be a coil or it's going to be a CDI. It's going to be one of those, generally speaking. But do your diagnosis. Spend $30. Get a nice ohm meter. It's an investment in yourself. It's a tool that will last you a very long time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers, which is our first main goal for YouTube. It's been 7 months. That's a pretty good record for a small channel like mine that deals in three-wheelers. It's an obsolete small engine. It's I focus on a small section of those. So thank you for following. Thank you for sharing, liking, subscribing. I do appreciate it. And really, if you go by Dr. ATV's website, tell them I sent you. And it means a lot to them. It means a lot to me that they were willing to send me a CDI and said, here, you know, do something with it. Make a video. And so I did. And so this is for you. I hope it helps you out. If you've got a no spark situation, it could be the CDI. This is how you find out before you make that phone call. So as always, hey, thank you for watching, subscribing, and liking and sharing. I appreciate it. And we'll get back on that go-kart real soon. Y'all take care. Bye.